Hey there, welcome to DidgieTalks. Today we're taking a look at the latest Tesla software update, which is 2019.40.50.1. So my last video I looked at some of the updates around auto lane change and auto windscreen wipers, and both of those were hits. I have, however, found a few other issues with that update in terms of ping ponging in lane and a few other bits and pieces, so I haven't done a recent update until this one. And this one is an absolute doozy. It's got loads and loads of stuff in it. Let's take a look at what's in the release notes, and then I'll get out on the road and we'll do some test driving to see if autopilot is improved. So starting with the release notes, I'm recording this on my handheld session, so forgive the shakiness if you see that on the screen itself. So what we've got is we've got Smart Summon update, and Smart Summon's great if you are outside of the EU or outside of the UN regulations which limit Smart Summon. So for us people that are in the UN and EU regulations around Smart Summon, we have to be within Bluetooth range and about 6 meters of the car in order for Smart Summon to work, or Summon to work at all. So we don't get the benefits that anybody outside of those restrictions gets. So we can't be recalling our cars across car parks and all those fun things we see on the internet. However, Smart Summon is an update in this particular release, and I won't spend a great deal of time on that because it doesn't actually make a huge deal of difference to us users in the UK. But as you can see on the screen, we do get a Smart Summon update. We do get an adjacent lane speed update too, and on a test drive I had just now, this did work. So as I passed a lay-by with some cars in it, I got the graphic, which is a graphic on the inside lane showing arrows pointing in the opposite direction to travel to tell you that there's a slower car or some slower cars in that lane, and then the car will adjust its speed so as not to pass those cars too fast, and to, I guess, give yourself and the car an opportunity to react if you need to. So that's adjacent lane speed adjustments, and I am seeing that on my car. I've got a 2018 Hardware 3 MCU2 car, and I do see these, and if I don't see any of these changes, I'll make sure I highlight that. Voice command, I've tried this today and it's been a bit hit and miss. I don't know if it's something with my car particularly, but for some reason it's not always picking up my voice command, and in some cases like open autopilot settings, it doesn't actually work. I may do some testing on that later and I'll show some changes whether I can find out what's wrong with that, but for me at the moment the voice commands update is a bit hit and miss. There's some phone improvements. You can now read messages. So I had to actually go into my iPhone and to adjust or set some of the settings in there. So I had to go to the Bluetooth section where the Tesla car was connected, click on the I for information, and in there's some settings to sync calls or contacts rather than sync messages, and I had to switch sync messages on. But after switching that on, I have done some testing, and when I get a message, it does come through on the dash. It does tell me that there's a message waiting. I can click on it and it will read that message to me, so that's a great update. Then there's camp mode, which is where the car will enable you to keep the settings for the climate as well as keep the light settings, and to give you ports so that you can charge whichever devices you've got while you're in that. It says you can keep climate on, camp while you're in park mode, big batteries rock, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure I'm going to actually use it much, but nevertheless it's a great option. Then there's an update to the Tesla Theatre where you can launch the theatre when you're in park mode, and they've added Twitch. So I have been using Netflix, and I have been using the other things that are in there, so YouTube for example, while I'm in Supercharge, and it's great to have that, and also to use Twitch. I don't actually use Twitch a great deal to watch much gaming lately, but it's there if you need it. They've also added a game which is the Stardew Valley. Again, I haven't had a chance to play this yet, but I'll give that a go next time I'm at a Supercharger. And they've added Backgammon, not Blackgammon, Backgammon. So if you're a Backgammon fan, here's an opportunity for 2 players to play Backgammon together. There is a voice keyword. You can now use dictation to input text in your car. Simply tap the microphone icon on the keyboard and input text via your voice control. I haven't given that a try yet. There's the TRAX, which is essentially a keyboard or music making, like a garage band function within the entertainment system, so you can have a bit of a play with some sounds, some beats, some tunes, and if that's your thing, then that's another great addition to kill the time while you're getting a charge. Save dash cam clips on Honk, and I have switched that on, so if you press the horn, then it will automatically save the clips from your dash cam to your saved folder, so that if you're honking your horn because something's happened, then that automatically gets saved. So I think that's a great little feature. It says in driver profiles, additional navigation settings are now saved to your driver profile, such as volume levels for navigation voice guidance, as well as traffic display settings. And there's new language, so Danish language. So that's it for the release notes. That's a bit of a doozy. There's bunches of things going on in there. I will be playing with the other bits and pieces, and I'll report on whether I find any goods, bads or uglies within that. But in the meantime, what I'm really interested in finding out is whether or not Autopilot has seen any improvements since the last update. So let's get to it. Right then. So I like to do my tests on the same stretch of road mostly, so that I can compare them against each other as much as possible, given that every time you do these tests, different things will happen, cars will be in different places and so on. First one is joining the dual carriageway, so it's indicated, it's pulled me in, and it's put me in lane, all on its own. So so far so good. Actually, Autopilot, or Navigate on Autopilot for joining motorways and dual carriageways, it's been a bit hit and miss with me. I find that sometimes it does exactly like it did just there, where it will know that it's joining a motorway, it will indicate, it will merge in, and it'll do a pretty good job of it. And then other times, Navigate on Autopilot maybe won't be kicked in or something, it won't join anything, or it will join really late, so it will literally run out the whole length of the joining lane and use the merging lanes to merge you in without an indicator, and then move you into the next lane. So it's been a bit hit and miss. So for the first on-ramp experience of 2019.40.50.1, it performed really well. It did the job, it indicated, and it's now telling me to change lanes, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to pretty much follow Navigate on Autopilot as much as possible with pretty much everything it tells me to do, and get a good idea of how well the car is anticipating what it should do in the surroundings, and how well it's driving if it were, for example, an autonomous vehicle, which we all know it's not. We all know that it's really just a driver aid, a driver assistance feature, but it's about as close to autonomy as we can get, right? And us Tesla drivers love to use Navigate on Autopilot as much as possible, because it really shows off the technical prowess and the cleverness of what Tesla and the team have been able to do. I have seen some feedback from some testers which is saying that the car is holding the overtaking lane a little bit too long and not pulling us back into the driving lane. So we'll put some of that to the test in this particular drive. Weather conditions are so-so. There's a little bit of spray from the road, so a good opportunity to see whether the windscreen wipers, the auto wipers, is sensing that rain on the windscreen and putting the auto wipers on. So again, I'll not do that manually as much as possible, so we can see how that's performing. There you go. Very light spray on the windscreen, and the auto windscreen wipers did a clear job for us, and it continues to do so. So I think that's still a hit as much as possible. And for normal driving, like we're seeing here, where the car is holding lane and matching speeds and so on, the car does a fantastic job anyway. What I did see, incidentally, from the previous update is I did see a significantly increased level of ping ponging, so bouncing from left to right while it's in the driving lane. And actually, so far, I'm not really seeing that at all. So if anything, that looks like it's something that maybe crept in that particular release that's been resolved since. On the bends, maybe moving around a little bit. Again, you won't be able to see that on the camera. You don't really see that very much on these test drives. It bounces around a little bit on those cameras. A little bit of speed matching going on here, so the car is slowing to match the speed of the car in the inside lane, so I'm going to use the throttle to go past that. It's another problem we've seen on navigating autopilot, that speed matching issue, where the car matches the speed of the cars on the inside lane, and I'm seeing a lot of that, and on this dual carriageway particularly, when in navigating autopilot, do see that a lot. I'm not sure why it does that. I'm not sure why it would feel the need. I'm actually going to manually change lane because there's a car behind me which has been flashing his lights a little bit, so he's obviously in a hurry, or they are in a hurry, so let's let them pass. And then, despite saying I was going to let the car do as much of it as possible, I certainly don't want to be an obstacle for somebody if they do need to be somewhere faster than everybody else. So let's get back out into the overtaking lane and get the car back up to speed. But so far so good. The lane change function, which has been improved lately, where it responds to the lane change request faster and then moves in faster, I don't know whether I'm becoming used to it, whether they've smoothed it out since my previous video to this one. It's still really quick. It still starts the process or the procedure a lot quicker, and it changes lane nice and quickly. So it just feels confident, and it just feels like it's a lot more settled in what it's doing, and just gets on with it. It does also change lane into much smaller gaps. I've got it set to Mad Max mode, so I'd want it to change lane into small gaps, but it seems to be doing that really well. It does stop you changing lane if it feels the lane change isn't safe, the gap is too small, or whatever it feels. So it still does that, and it will highlight the turns in red when it's in that mode. But ultimately, from what I'm seeing so far, there's virtually no ping-ponging in a straight line, so that's one problem solved. It is holding the faster lane, but actually in this situation, in this scenario, as you can see, there's cars in front, there's cars on the inside, we're all travelling at around about the same sort of speed. There really is no need to change back into the driving lane. I've got the seat set to about the speed limit, just to give us that option to go 1 or 2 miles per hour over if it feels the need. But actually all we're doing at the moment is just matching the cars around us, and the car's performing brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. Again, this is I often say that in my videos I'm a little subjective, because as you can tell, what I'm really doing here is I'm letting the car do a bunch of things, and I'm intervening from time to time, and I'm just saying how I feel it's performing based on my own experience. But it is really subjective, and my forum buddy Enginerd, who takes a much more scientific approach to this, has been doing some tests on the previous release, not 40.50.1, but on the previous release, and he's found that the car is holding the overtaking lane far more than it used to, and as a result his test results have seen a bit of a dip in performance. But actually, if you take out that holding the overtaking lane for too long, and you look at the data on all the other things the car is doing, we're seeing it hold about the level of performance it's been performing in previous releases. I must say though, in this particular test that I'm doing now on this particular dual carriageway, which is one that I'll use a lot, it just feels better. It just feels more comfortable. It feels steadier. It's not weaving and bobbing. It's adjusting speed and distance between cars really quite smoothly and quite gently. So other than back there a sudden speed match attempts that the car made, which I overrode, so far so good. I've got my hands on the wheel, but as you can see, it's not me doing anything. The car is most definitely holding me in the overtaking lane, but then the lane's not travelling at its top speed. Right, okay, so the car's just in front of me has just moved over into the driving lane, so we'll now increase speed to where it's set, which is taking us past some cars on the inside lane. It's not speed matching, which is good. That's what we want. The car in front has just pulled into my lane, so unless they're travelling at the right speed. We'll see that start to match. No, they're pulling back in. Okay, I'm not holding anything up, so I'm just going to let the car hold this lane if that's what it's choosing to do. There's plenty of distance between me and the car behind. You probably can't see it on the camera on the screen, although I've put up the rear camera on the screen. Looks like my rear camera's a little bit dirty. It is pretty mucky out there at the moment, so no surprises there. So you probably can't see there's actually a car driving at a really fair distance behind me, so again, I'm not actually holding anybody up. Definitely still a little bit of ping-ponging left to right in the turn on the bend, but as soon as we get back on the straights, holding lane really, really well. Okay, so still speed matching. I've had to hit the throttle to pass the car on the inside lane, and we've navigating autopilot's come off, so we're heading into a 50-mile-an-hour zone on this particular dual carriageway, and at that point navigating autopilot comes off. Something that always happens at this point is we hit the 50-mile-an-hour zone, the dash, the red circled speed limit on the dash will go down to 50, so it will know it's a 50-mile-an-hour road, but the max speed that I've got set at the moment to 73 will stay at 73, and therefore the car actually won't want to slow down. It will want to stay at 73, and the only thing that slows it down is, there you go, it's gone to 50, still max set at 73, and it's still travelling at 73. So I'm going to manually set that down to 50 to meet the speed limit on the road. But that's something I've often talked about, is why, for some reason, when the car knows that the speed limit for the road is 50, it still travels at 73 or 70, whatever you've got your max speed limit set to. Now I can understand if you now want to set your speed limit, if you're now travelling at 50 and you want to set your max speed limit to higher than 50, and then you therefore use the stalk to adjust it up, I can understand the car then maybe going to those speeds between 50 and 70 and beyond 70. But actually, when the car detects that you're in a road which has reduced speed down to 50, I think that it should set your max speed down to that level and then give you the option to adjust it back up again if that's what you choose to do. I think that would be a far better way of handling how it sets or how it reacts to the max speed setting that you put in the car. But maybe there's a reason that it doesn't do that. But I think if the car detects that you're on a 50-mile-an-hour road, it should slow you to 50 while you're in autopilot, and then just give you the option to adjust otherwise. Navigating autopilot switched back on because we're headed back into 70-mile-an-hour dual carriageway. So speed set back to 70, yep. And again, as mentioned before, I think autopilot is performing really, really well. I think the car in this update, from my subjective point of view at least, is showing improvements. I'm going to change lane to the inside lane, let a car pass, and then I'm going to change back out. There's a car coming, it's coming up at speed, so I'm going to tell it I want to change lane, see what it does. It should stop me, it does, and then it cancels it because of the 5-second rule. So I'm going to put it on again, see if it gets me. There's a car coming up behind me, look at that, responds really quickly, makes the lane change. There's a car coming up behind me, so I'm sure it saw that, but it didn't stop me making the manoeuvre. And I'm coming to the exit point of the road I'm on. Normally under these circumstances, what navigating autopilot will do is it will draw a line on the inside lane to let me know that I need to be on that lane to make the exit. It hasn't done that so far. It's just come up to tell me I should be on the inside lane from a lane point of view. So I'm now going to tell it I want to get on this inside lane. It found a gap, and I had to take it off because there's a car come flying up behind me. I'm put navigating autopilot back on, and it should now just take me off automatically, which is done. There you go. So that's all working perfectly. It knows there's another exit ramp, if you like, off this exit ramp. It's a double exit. it should indicate and take me off, which it's done. And as usual, performed that whole series of maneuvers with aplomb, no problems at all. So we're coming up to a roundabout now, and this is an interesting one because, as we know, roundabouts is not programmed in currently. However, for this particular roundabout, the car will often make the maneuver for me. And okay, it went a bit wide there, so I had to take steering. I went into that a little bit faster. You know, normally there's cars in front of me slowing down for that roundabout, and if I put the indicator on, leave autopilot on, and let the cars in front slow me down to a decent speed, it'll normally take that roundabout. It will take the left, so it kind of sees it as a sweeping left turn, I guess, and just continues on that left turn. In this particular case, the cars in front weren't close enough to slow me down enough, and the car, whilst it was taking the left-hand turn, it was taking it a little bit wide, it was taking it a little bit fast, so I had to intervene. Next roundabout that's just about to come up is a similar situation. If the cars in front are slowing me down enough, and let's just get nice and close, set the distance between me and the car in front to 1, get nice and close to the car in front. Two things happen here. This single lane turns into 2 lanes, and sometimes the car has a bit of an indecision around which lane to go in, so let's see what it does here. It's in the middle of the road at the moment. It's seen the road and it snapped me in, told me to take over. It's headed into the roundabout, and oh, that was all a little bit shaky and a little bit bumpy, and I had my hands on the wheel ready to take over just in case, but as you would have seen from that, it really doesn't like roundabouts. It really doesn't like one lane split into 2 as you go into those roundabouts. Really had a bit of a wobbly as it went into the roundabout and weaved about a bit, and then it had a bit of a wobbly coming out of the roundabout, choosing which lane to go into, but it kind of did it, albeit not what you would want in terms of smoothness and confidence. But like I said, we don't have roundabouts and junctions and intersections off of dual carriageways and motorways, at least, that is configured into the car just yet. So actually the fact that it went through there just meant it was handling a series of issues, if you like, or events on the road as best it could, and it did a reasonable enough job. And then coming up to multiple lanes and another roundabout, the car got awfully upset, said it didn't want to play anymore, asked me to take over, so I did. So yeah, there you have it. On dual carriageways and motorways, I would say that autopilot in this particular release is performing really, really well. On multi-lane, single lane, country roads, or in this particular case dual carriageways, again, I think the car is performing really, really well. Not happy with roundabouts and junctions just yet, but then again, it's not supposed to be, so I think we can forgive the car that at least. But yeah, so far so good. I will continue to record this journey and make note to any significant events, anything that happens well or otherwise. I'm going to try this roundabout actually. Into the roundabout, across the roundabout. Oh, I think I just put a little bit too much pressure on the steering there, but I think it was going to handle that roundabout okay. Never mind. As I said, it's not really supposed to do that, so we're really pushing the boundaries of what the car can do. So yeah, like I was saying, I will continue to record this journey. If anything else happens that I think is noteworthy, then I'll include it in the video, but if not, then I think we can wrap it up there. So I hope you found this video informative. It's a fantastic update and release for our Christmas present from the guys at Tesla and from Elon. Everything from lots more functionality and things to play with, right the way through to what I think is an improved autopilot and navigate on autopilot experience. So really glad about that, and so yeah, happy Christmas and New Year from the guys at Tesla to all of us Tesla owners, and likewise, happy Christmas and New Year to you guys out there. Thanks for watching my videos. I really appreciate all of your support. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And until the next video, take care.